As a program of action, it has shown a capacity to inspire the fanatical loyalty and rigid discipline of patriotism. But, unlike patriotism and like religion, it has swept over national boundaries as the creed of a worldwide movement. Marxism is especially like religion in the nature of certain basic questions which it attempts to answer. It includes, though not under these names, a theory of how evil came into the world and how it will be eliminated, a vision of powers which are beyond man's control and inflict suffering upon him, but which carry him onward to a blessed fulfillment, a prophecy of the final paradise where humanity will live in perfect freedom and happiness. It is impossible to understand the deep appeal of the Marxist system unless we consider its powerful effect upon emotions, which are essentially religious. As a whole, the Marxist system is prophecy founded upon vision, but it can and ought also to be considered on its intellectual merits. Its assertions can be tested by the usual canons of evidence and logic. The appeal to internal consistency and, especially, to the facts of history can settle the question of the validity of its theories of sociology, economics, and politics. These deserve serious consideration and should not be rejected simply out of moral disapproval or because communists, who accept them, are an evil influence in the world today. Often, within the exaggeration of the Marxist doctrine, a kernel of truth may be found. The Marxist system of thought is particularly useful, however, because it raises questions which force the reader to state his own beliefs, or doubts, on important subjects. We may, for instance, reject the extreme economic determinism of the Marxist theory, but we need to think out our own position on the possible relations between economic development and other aspects of society. For the person who believes in the power of conscience and moral ideals and in the capacity of the human mind to understand and control society, there is no better exercise than matching his beliefs against the challenging dogmas of Marxism. To reduce Marxism to a single coherent body of thought is far from an easy task. The term refers not only to the views of the two inseparable collaborators, Marx and Engels, whose ideas quite naturally changed and developed from one work to another. It also includes the interpretations and restatements of these views by the host of disciples who have acclaimed the system in the past 100 years or so. Even if we were to try to confine our discussion to the doctrines of self-proclaimed Marxists in the world today, we should have a wide variety of views to recount. Not only those of the communists of Soviet Russia, Western Europe, and China, but also the quite different, though still allegedly Marxist ideas of anti-communists, such as the Social Democrats of Germany, the Socialists of France, and the left-wing Labourites of Britain. Quite sufficient is the effort to state in broad outline what may be called the Marxism of Marx. That is, certain of the main doctrines which he and Engels elaborated in their principal works. These are not by any means unambiguously clear, and the reader is encouraged to use this introduction merely as a starting point from which to conduct his own study and criticism of what Marx and Marxists have written. 1. The theory of objective development. The Marxist system has many branches. The central doctrine, however, is the conception which came to be known as historical materialism, or the materialist conception of history. The classic formulation of this doctrine is found in the preface of the Critique of Political Economy, which Marx published in 1859. There he describes how he was led to the conclusion that legal relations, as well as forms of the state, could neither be understood by themselves nor explained by the so-called general progress of the human mind, but that they are rooted in the material conditions of life. Expanding on this statement, he continued, "In the social production of their material life, men enter into definite relations that are indispensable and independent of their wills. These relations of production correspond to a definite state of the development of their material forces of production. The sum total of these relations of production makes up the economic structure of society, the real foundation on which arises a legal and political superstructure, and to which correspond definite forms of social consciousness."